Good morning, everyone. I am finding what I need to share with you, the link to this live stream on Patreon. So there it is. And we're off. Wonderful. Wonderful to have you back. I am typing into the chat that if you join at any point during the hour, I hope that you will say hello and feel welcome. We're gonna try the corner today. I don't know what we'll do. But I have some things that I want to talk about on the subject of the work recovery cycle. And I'm going to start here. So I've got my little buzzy ball. And I've noticed for me that my sternal joints here, where my rib cage joins, they really like a little bit of mobilization. And if I have this vibration, it's got some texture on it. So I've got this sort of like pressuring in to my tissue. So I can feel that vibration distributed all the way through my shoulder. And then you can mobilize the arm, get that shoulder blade freed up. Get that side line of your body freed up. Because these joints move. These joints move with the rib cage, with the shoulder, even with the head position. Everything moves, and it needs to. Because everything is energy, and energy needs to move. The microphones that I purchased for this function have already died and not to be rejuvenated. And so that is my signal that I need to come up with a different sound option. So anybody who wants to give me advice as far as the little clip-ons or a headset or something else. So I hope that you can hear me okay while we're here, because I'm just using the onboard microphone from the computer. The work recovery cycle is something that came up in here several times over the last week or two. And so it seems worthwhile for us to establish that concept in our vocabulary. And that's really what we're doing throughout this series, is we are establishing a vocabulary so that we can talk with each other and understand the work that we're doing and just like demystify that a little bit. So the work recovery cycle is something that's always going to happen. When we expend energy, then we have to recover that energy. When we go to the gym, we're going to be hungry later. When we go for a run, we're going to need a nap or a good night's sleep. Like, we're going to have to recover that energy somehow. We're going to have to give our body a window of opportunity to replenish whatever it is that it expended during that activity. And so, simple enough, right? We do some work and then we have to recover. We come up in our energy expenditure, in our effort. We increase our effort. We're doing work, and then we recover, and we get to kind of coast down that wave a little bit, and like, oh, maybe that's like nice and easy for just a couple of minutes. Right? Like, we like it when things are nice and easy, but we don't want to keep just going down indefinitely either, because that's going to end in fatigue, chronic fatigue, sluggishness, stagnation in our body, stagnation in our body tissues. We need to mobilize the body mechanically, talking about your cardiovascular system, talking about your lymphatic system, talking about your joints and your ligaments and synovial fluids. And these things have to be able to slide and glide in relation with each other. And they do that via the fascial network. Everything, all of the named structures, as we would say in anatomy class, all of the named structures in the body are suspended in this web of fascial fibers. And fascia is crystalline, and it's fibrous, and it's intelligent. It communicates with every cell in our body. Every cell in our body is communicating via the fascial network. And so that's where this movement and change is really taking place from an anatomical standpoint. But we exert effort in our work, and then we recover, and then we can rest, and then we rev that engine back up again, and then we recover and refuel, and around we go. And that's the work recovery cycle. Ta-da! We all have an intuitive understanding that that's how it works. What happens for any number of reasons is that cycle gets interrupted. And maybe we're leaning a little too hard into work. Maybe we're trying to do too much without enough fuel in the tank. Maybe it goes the other way. Maybe we're trapped in this need for recovery because we've been in survival mode for so long that our nervous system is on fire and we can't think about anything other than just sheltering in place. And that's what that might look like. But what we understand mechanically is that we have to have these kinds of natural fluctuations in order for the mechanism to maintain function and health. And so I want to talk about these terms here, starting with activation being the energy that brings us up that initial wave. That's activation. And activation can be something that happens involuntarily. That's what we can think of as a trigger. That's what we can think of as something stressful in our environment is eliciting some sort of response from the body, and we get activated. And there's the wave. We're on our way up. Okay? Activation can also happen on purpose. Like when you go to the gym and maybe you're not really feeling it at first, but like, okay, well, let me just walk on the treadmill for a minute and let me do a couple of just like easy reps of something and let me get my heart pumping and let me get all of that going. And you know what? I'm glad I went to the gym. So activation can also be something that we do on purpose, that we elicit from our body with a particular type of experience, a particular type of environment. We put our body into that environment and it activates the body because the body is a mechanism that has its own intelligence that understands how it wants to respond to things. Now, then sometimes those responses get mismatched. And that's why this work is so much fun, because it gives you technology to be able to recalibrate the way that your body shows up in your life. And my personal bias is that can be a very beneficial thing, and it can be a really enjoyable thing to feel like you step into agency inside your own body. There's a lot of safety when you can step into your own agency. There's a lot of safety when you can step into your own decision of like, do I really want to get activated over this? Is now the time? Is this the thing that I want to put that energy into? Maybe. Maybe that's a perfectly healthy and appropriate and necessary thing to do in that particular moment. That's what we call boundaries. Yay, boundaries. So we want that as a skill, but we want that as a conscious skill and not just a knee-jerk, reflexive set of imprints that have accumulated in our physiology, accumulated in our nervous system, accumulated in our genetics, accumulated in our body that we didn't necessarily ask for or consent to. We all inherit things that we did not consent to. We all experience things that were uncomfortable. And we accumulate those kinds of experiences. I saw the video lag just a little bit there. We accumulate those kinds of experiences in our body, in the physicality, in the mechanism. And those types of things color the responses, the programmed responses that our body will offer up when we get activated. So, how hard do we really need to work? How hard do you really need to work on any given day, on any given task, on any given exercise? How hard do you need to work? Let's put some agency around that. And let's make some self-modulation, because some of you like to go real hard. Some of you are going hard all day, every day. And that's okay if you are fueling that work with adequate recovery. If you are nourishing all of that work with adequate, balanced recovery. If you do not honor the reality of this cycle, you will be able to keep that up for a while. You will be able to run that engine hot for a period of time, but every body has a threshold at which point their engine starts to experience strain, and there's wear and tear that starts to show up in the body. Often as pain, muscle tension, inflammation, and it can progress to other disease states, diseased states, because there's strain, there's turbulence that it's just like tug of war, internal conflict, inefficient allocation of resources, trying to go in directions that don't necessarily work well together, but you're trying to do both of them at the same time, and there's turbulence and there's disruption, and sometimes like they just equal each other out, and now you are fried and anxious and exhausted at the same time. What we might call wired and tired, which is a phrase you might be seeing around. That's what we're talking about. where the body is being asked to do more than what is being supported by the user. That's you, that's me, that's us. We're the user. So we got to do work because it's good for us and we can get fun things done. That's a good thing. Thumbs up. We have to recover because that's the math. That's how it works, and I don't make those rules. And this is the cycle that's always happening. And sometimes it's a big work and a big recovery, but often it's little. Often it's these baby fluctuations. Row, row your boat gently down the stream. But sometimes it is a big wave, and sometimes we want a big wave. Sometimes that big wave feels pretty exciting. Ooh, I like these kinds. Big waves. Big waves can be fun. Big waves can also be scary. Whew. And if we have a big activated experience like that, that maybe strains the capacity we have to process the significance of it, then our body will hold the excess. Our body will hold the overflow. If our minds can't handle something that's happening, our body will hold the overflow. And that can be something like getting off of a roller coaster and it's like, oh, my hands are shaking. Like, oh, something just happened to me. What just happened is that you didn't die. That's why we like roller coasters, is because we didn't die while we were on them. And then we get to step off and it's like, oh, I made it. That's why we like roller coasters. And that's an example of this capacity overflow, because this water bottle has a certain capacity of like 24 ounces or whatever it is, and it can only ever contain 24 ounces. Now, it might contain 24 ounces of water. It might contain 24 ounces of something else. It might contain a combination of water and lemon juice and herbs, and like there's a recipe going on. There's a mixture. There's a soup in here. Probably wouldn't put soup in this one, but you know what I mean? Like, but it's only ever going to contain 24 ounces before it starts to overflow. And we're the same way as a physical body, as an individual person, as a conscious agent in our life. When we're talking about energy that's moving through, we're talking about mathematical energy that's moving through your experience. And at any given moment, we can only hold so much of that before our circuits start to fry, before our mechanism exhibits strain, or we overflow some of that energy in our behaviors to those around us. And so what we are talking about in context of somatic work is seeing how these things show up in our bodies, getting some self-reflective data about what this pattern looks like for you, and also starting to get a handle of felt lived experience of what kind of capacity we're working with. And capacity is going to constantly change, just like everything else constantly changes from moment to moment. And this is the spoons thing, right? Every single one of us, when we wake up in the morning, we wake up with a certain amount of, shall I say, gumption for the day. And some days we wake up with a lot of gumption, and some days we do not. And some days maybe we started out pretty strong, and then something happened that bumped us out, and now we're low again. And those are the fluctuations in capacity that we're talking about. And what we can also think about is what happens to a body that conditions itself to hold more capacity. Now we're talking about exercise, and we're talking about cardiovascular endurance and muscular strength and tendon ligamentous integrity of our joints and our discs, and the responsiveness, the cooperative responsiveness of our fascia. And those are the kinds of things that we can develop through physical exercises and breath work and qigong and yoga and kickboxing and jujitsu and whatever else makes your heart grow. But we move our body and we challenge our body and we make our body work for this experience, and we support the body adequately, lovingly, nourishingly in that recovery cycle, minimizing the turbulence as we are able, understanding that it's still going to happen to some extent, understanding that everything is always fluctuating and that what goes up will come down because those are the rules. And titration is a term that I see a lot in the somatic conversation, and I learned it in chemistry class. Because titration is a process by which, if I have a solvent, I've got a beaker of blue liquid over here, and then I have a reactant in my little dropper, and my reactant is, let's say pink. And when I mix pink and blue, I'm going to get yellow, but only if I mix them in the right ratio and the right amount. And I don't know what that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one drop of my reactant and I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to be like, it's still blue. Another drop of pink, drop it in, still blue. Drop, drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, yellow, done. How many drops did I do? Because I've been counting them all along as we go. I've been keeping track of my drops. But that's titration. Titration is one drop at a time. See what it does. See what it does. See what it does. Row, row your boat gently. And see what it does, and see where you're at, and see how you feel in your body. Gently, but consistently. Check in with yourself. Using all of these tools that I'll be talking more about here, using any other tools that anyone else has ever given you to connect your mind and your body and your breath in the here and now, so that you can get right into the center of those three bodies that I talked about last week, and right into the center of your gravity, and feel how the breath moves inside of that container, that the body expands to receive it, and it comes out on that exhale. And when we breathe in, we can absorb the nourishment of that breath to every single cell in our body, because every single cell in our body is communicating about its needs via the fascial network. We all have needs. We all need recovery time. We all need support and nutrition and oxygen and water and exercise and sunlight. We all need things. We all need certain conditions. It's part of being a biological organism, is that we have certain biological needs, physiological needs, psychological needs that our body will consistently ask us to receive and respect and support and meet those needs intrinsically, to be willing to do that for ourselves, to have the gumption to do that for ourselves. And I understand that sometimes we don't. And sometimes we need a little help from our friends. And sometimes we need community. We need the mycelial network of our friends and our peers and our colleagues and our neighbors and our family and our contact points, our attachment points into this network of humanity. And so, in order to be able to balance within a very complex network, every given individual is a complex network of cells that require balanced cooperation, synergy, homeostasis for optimum function, so that we don't end up with an autoimmune disorder, so that we don't end up with some sort of chronic dis-ease that has been created in the turbulence of a chronic imbalance and a chronic neglect of the math. Forgot what I was saying just now because I felt a space open up right here. So we don't want that. We don't want chronic discomfort. We want to feel good in our body. So let's do that. Let's choose to find the gumption to keep feeling good and understanding that there are going to be fluctuations and there are reasons for fluctuations, and all of that's fine. We all have needs. There's always going to be reciprocity in these functions. The more compassionately and responsively and consistently we're willing to meet our own needs and respond and support our own body moment to moment to the extent that we have the capacity to do so, and not beating ourselves up about anything that's not. That creates balance in the nervous system, that creates balance in the immune system, that creates calm in the fascia, that creates confidence in the fascia. Because the fascia allows everything to move, to respond to whatever is being presented, either from the environment or from whatever's going on up here. Wherever that attention is, the fascia is responding. And if the fascia is reassured by you, by the user, by the occupant of the vehicle, if the fascia is consistently reassured that, yeah, this is what we do. This is how it works. Fluctuation is normal. We're okay. I'm okay. You're okay. We can be okay. And when we know that in our body, then we believe it. Yeah, let's leave it there. Let's leave it there. Okay, you all let me know, please, what you think of this setup. How is the volume working? We're going to keep evolving into this, into whatever it needs to be. If you have questions for me, I'm easy to get in touch with. You can get in touch with me here. You can find me through my professional website that is linked through the YouTube channel. And regardless of anything else, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your interest in this work. Keep taking really good care of yourselves. Feel good in your body. You deserve it. It's supposed to be fun.